Welcome to the Golden Four Formulas to Grow Your E-commerce Company, a special webinar brought to you by Wicked Reports. Let's dive right in. Running an e-commerce business, one of the biggest challenges is being clear enough on the numbers. You have all these data inputs across your email campaigns, Facebook, AdWords, content marketing, etc. And each of these channels come with their own tracking and metrics. Now, you would think that having access to so much information would be liberating. But in fact, from the business owners and marketers we've talked to, it is quite the opposite. It feels more like you're handcuffed and shackled by your own numbers. See, there's a ton of data at your fingertips, but it's confusing to know what to trust, what to track, and what to turn into action. It's very much like throwing darts in the dark, which, when you think about it, how could you possibly hit the bullseye or even make it onto the board in the first place if you can't see where you're throwing? Now, here's the issue. Here's why this is happening. Data is useless if you can't do anything with it. It's a lot like oil in the ground. Really think about this analogy here. It's a raw material. Oil sits there. There's lots of it, but it's meaningless on its own, which is actually why we call it data mining. The only way to make use of that raw material is to mine it. So you refine your quote unquote oil, and then you can make informed decisions about your company. That's how you turn data into insight, just like oil becomes fuel. And as a marketer or business owner, this insight is crucial because in order to grow the business, you need to know what's working and what's working now. Wicked Reports has tracked over $1.5 billion in sales data across our customer base. Now, we've analyzed this data and found a very specific set of metrics and formulas that matter for growth. These are the ones you should really be paying attention to in your sales and marketing. We call them the Golden Four Formulas to grow your e-commerce company. Get out a piece of paper and sharpen your pencil because you're going to want to take notes for this. Formula 1, lifetime value, or LTV for short. Lifetime value is equal to revenue divided by customer count. You use LTV to help determine how much you can pay to buy a new customer. You want to make money on your paid ads, preferably as much as possible. When you know how much value you can expect from your average customer, it gives you two things. Number one, it's a starting point for how much you can bid. You need to bid a lot less than your LTV to acquire new customers at a profit. Number two, it gives you a benchmark to compare marketing performance between campaigns. Customer LTV tells you if you are attracting high-value customers with your marketing. And then you can compare the LTV between campaigns to discover which one is attracting the higher value customers. Here's an example of how to calculate LTV. Let's say your total revenue is $1 million, and that's coming from 5,000 total customers. A million divided by 5,000 is $200. So the lifetime value of a single customer is $200. You obviously would want to be paying way less than this to acquire a single new customer. The neat thing about the Golden Four Formulas is that they don't just operate as silos, but they very much play into one another. So you'll see as we go through the next three formulas that together, on their own, they're powerful, but together they tell a complete story about where your company is going. So Golden Formula 2 is ROI, otherwise known as return on investment. ROI might seem like a no-brainer, but many companies incorrectly calculate this, and they simply divide costs by revenue. This overstates their campaign performance, which then leads to future decisions based on false insight. The correct formula to calculate ROI is revenue minus costs divided by costs. Here's an example of how to calculate real ROI. So we know it's revenue minus cost divided by costs. We got $1 million in revenue and $500,000 in costs. So $1 million minus 500,000 divided by 500,000 gives us a value of 1.00 or 100% ROI on this campaign. It's doing pretty well. But now let's look at how it changes if we calculate using the wrong formula. If we simply do revenue divided by costs, we would get $1 million divided by 500,000, which makes for an ROI of 2.0 or 200%. We've just doubled the value of our campaign because of a mathematical error. And think about how that would impact your decision-making in the wrong way if you've calculated the wrong thing, because then you're making decisions on false insight. This is why it's important to use the right formula here. It takes us to golden formula 3, average time to first purchase. This is a great metric that doesn't get a lot of publicity. It's like if the Golden Four were a band, like you'd know the lead singer really well. And then there's the drummer in the background who keeps the beat going, who makes the song sound good because it's that like pulse of the music, but you don't know the drummer's name. Average time to first purchase is kind of like the drummer at the back of the stage. Doesn't get a lot of publicity, but it's very powerful and helpful in telling the whole story. Average time to first purchase is going to tell you how long it takes new leads to buy on average. So to calculate this, you segment all your customers. Then you look at the date they first joined your email list, which is usually the create date in your CRM. Then look at the first date they made a purchase. The difference between these two dates is the time in days that the lead took until they first became a customer, until they made a purchase. Do this across all your customers and average it out to get the average number of days you can expect a new lead to convert to a customer. For example, let's say a customer purchased on November 5th and opted in on October 1st. That is a difference of 36 total days if you do November 5th minus October 1st. Now let's say we had 44 other customers who took 38, 27, 35, and 20 days to buy respectively. If we added that all up and divided it by the 5 total customers, our average time to purchase for this segment would be 31.2 days. Now you can use this metric to set the expectations on how and when to evaluate your new lead gen campaigns. It'll really keep you from being short-sighted and pulling a campaign too soon, because if your leads take an average of 20 days to become customers, you might not want to turn off your campaign after a week if it's not making money yet. See, the thing is, you might have great leads, it just might take them a little bit of time to buy. And now our fourth and final of the golden 4 formulas, earnings per lead, otherwise known as EPL for short, not to be confused with the English Premier League. Earnings per lead is calculated by revenue divided by lead count, or number of leads. For example, at $1 million revenue and 20,000 leads, we do 1 million divided by 20,000, and our earnings per lead is $50. That means we are generating $50 of revenue for every lead that is brought in. EPL is a straightforward measure of the value of your leads, and it's much more helpful than using cost per click, number of leads, or even cost per lead. Everyone gravitates to wanting leads to be cheap, which is understandable. When you're running a business, you instinctively want to drive down your costs. However, you might have really cheap leads because they actually aren't any good and they're never going to buy anything. So then you'll waste money in the future on leads, trying to convert leads who are never going to buy. EPL, earnings per lead, puts a value on each of those leads that you can then compare against the cost to easily see if they're valuable or not. Earnings per lead will actually change how you evaluate your own business, because when you make decisions on cost per lead, you're inherently reacting to a price that you don't even know the value of. Whereas decisions on earnings per lead, if you make decisions from that framework, from that mindset, you're giving yourself a framework to evaluate your lead quality. Those are the golden 4 formulas to grow your company. Did you take good notes? Well, good. But now I have a question for you. Why aren't you tracking these already? I will take a guess here. I would presuppose that it's because you have tons of data. It's a lot of math. You don't have a team of data scientists, and your attention is pulled in 10 other directions. Oh, and by the way, like we talked about at the beginning, you have data inputs from all those different channels, from your AdWords, your Facebook, your email. So you're getting all these inputs from different areas. That means you have to calculate it individually for each one. And some of that might not even be accurate or helpful in understanding purchase decision and behavior. Simply put, you need to run your company, not sit with a calculator inputting equations all day. But we do know this insight is critical to your company's growth. And that's why we call them the golden 4. And we agreed it's absolutely ridiculous to expect anyone to sit and crunch numbers all day. So what if, just like that infomercial toaster oven, you could set it and forget it? Well, remember, when we talked about how data on its own is useless, it's just raw material sitting in the ground that has to be mined. Wicked Reports takes your raw data across all channels and mines it automatically, so you have actual insight at your fingertips. Literally, once we plug this into your system, All you do is log in and see what's working and what's not. And we actually show you and say, we point to this thing and say, this campaign is working, this one's not. It's that effortless and it's that effective. We turn your oil into rocket fuel for your business. And when you're powered by rocket fuel, you finally break free from those shackles. You finally use the numbers to your advantage, and you finally know what to trust, what to track, and what to turn into action. This insight is how one of our customers, Get Maine Lobster, went from spending $4,000 on Facebook and making only one sale for $200, a massive loss, to making over $1.1 million in incremental sales. That is what we call rocket fuel. So now, are you ready for some rocket fuel of your own? Let us show you how we can turn your data into money. Let's have a conversation about how Wicked Reports can plug into your business, and you will be able to optimize every single campaign you run. You will know when to scale, when to chill, or when to kill your ads. You will essentially have the marketing version of video game cheat codes at your disposal. Let's have that conversation. Book a demo with us at wickedreports.com/demo. Thank you for watching the Golden 4 Formulas webinar.